who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hi, thanks for joining us for a very special edition of the Wow Report. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, here with the inestimable Tom Campbell,
Hello, Fenton.
Chief Creative Officer.
So excited by today's show. Don't want to give too much away.
The beyond superlative J. St. James.
I love it.
Well, and Blake, of course.
Hi.
Hey, hi. So it is a special, no, it is special. One of my favorite bands of all time, Queen. There is a mega movie coming out about Queen called Bohemian Rhapsody. It drops November 2nd.
And stars the beautiful, the gorgeous, fabulous, the unbelievable Rami Malek.
Calmez-vous.
I can't wait. I love him so much.
What we're going to do is every week we count down the top 10 things that make us go,
wow.
And so this week we're going to do the top 10 things that make us go, wow, from a Queen perspective. It's going to be all about Queen.
Well, it's always from a Queen perspective, darling. But
this might be the queeniest show we've ever done.
Oh, I should have done my intro all over again. I'm here with Queen James St. James, Queen Tom Campbell, Queen Blake Jacobs, and I'm
And
King.
Her Royal Highness, Fenton Bailey.
All right. So, number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
I love Queen.
yeah.
I don't think I'm the preeminent Queen fan. Really? No, but I've loved them my whole life. And there's one song in particular at number 10 that happens to be a duet between Queen and David Bowie, and it's called Under Pressure.
One of the best songs of the 1980s.
One of the best songs
of all time. Yes.
Listen to this the beat, the bass line. Oh yeah.
You know what? I'm even getting chills. It just gives me chills. Even though Vanilla Ice debased it horribly, I still get chills every time I hear it.
I choke up every time it comes on the radio. It brings up something primal in my childhood or something. Yeah. It brings me right back, and I get chills, and I want to sob.
About a year ago, it came back into my consciousness in a big way because floating around the internet was an a cappella version of Bowie and Freddie Mercury just like riffing. And the vocals, and you know how you get used to like masterful vocals over the years, stuff becomes kind of, it's just an incredible session where they got together. I think they recorded separately, but just were vamping, and they were in the same.
But they were in the same
They
studio.
were around, but they were just having their own turns at it. Here's a little brief history, if I may. A history of Queen, which is, first of all, I know Freddie Mercury. Brian May is the lead, is another guitarist and vocals. Roger Taylor did drums, and John Deacon was the bass guitar. So it was really supposed to be David was coming in, and supposedly David and Freddie were like friendly but competitive.
Well,
and it
when
was
superstars collide.
Sure. And in 1981, Freddie was the big pop star, and David was still just a little. He hadn't had Just Dance yet.
He'd had Scary Monsters, but he
was legendary, but he wasn't.
He was on the cusp of Megadom.
Yes.
He was still sort of cult.
Freddie had been there already.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And so they were over in Europe. They were at the Mountain Studios near where they were all hanging out, and it was supposed to be working on a different song. Called what is it called? It was called like Feel Like, and also David was supposed to do some vocals on a song called Cool Cat, but he didn't like them, so he scrapped them. But David took control, and they decided to do it like in 24 hours. The rumor I've also read, and there's many books about Queen, is that it was a drug, cocaine, and booze fueled like 24 hours, which makes if you listen to the a cappella version where they're just hitting high notes, and it's when they talk about in recovery about when drugs used to work, and that's when drugs used to work.
But it's funny because I thought David, I say David as if we were old friends.
DB.
I thought he was over cocaine by that time, and because the Thin White Duke in the 70s was his whole cocaine meltdown.
Wasn't it Thin White Duke was when he was in Berlin,
yes,
right? And then afterwards,
Scary Low Heroes was the
Heroes, right?
Yes.
But then Scary Monsters and Super Freaks still feels very druggy to me.
I heard that he had put his drugging behind him, so this maybe was just on the Queen's part, but I think it might have been a one night only kind of.
I think it might have been a little bit of a relapse.
Yes.
It's such a powerful song.
It is.
It's It's something so heartbreaking about it, and it only gets more. You know what it's like? It's like Life on Mars to me. Those two songs, Life on Mars and Under Pressure, are so about the modern condition in a way that proves to be, they were so prescient. And there isn't a lot of prescience in the sort of mindless pop and rock of the 70s, right? Or 80s, or even, but it just...
And if you remember the video for that too, where they were using like Nosferatu and Metropolis and all the German surrealist films of the and it's something it takes you back to the horror of the early 20th century, but it also shows that we're heading towards
back
more
again.
Yeah.
And just the idea of the bass line, at first, and again, over years, the stories change. We all know there's like three things. Yes, but John Deacon said that David Bowie came up with it. And Bowie's like, I didn't. And Brian May and Roger Taylor, who again aren't the bassists, they were like, no, it was Deacon's riff. But he had come up with it. They all went to dinner, and they came back, and he had forgotten it. So Bowie reminded him of it. So we're not alone. So it was drug-fueled, and it was whatever. You mentioned it already. 9 years later, Vanilla Ice stole it. It was a controversy because he said he didn't steal it. He had changed it, and it wasn't bum bum ba dum bum bum bum. It was bum ba bum 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 bum. It's exactly the same.
Right, that famous MTV.
That all came together. Again, there was rivalry between the two, and I'm told that Bowie never in Freddie's lifetime sang it. Like it was their song, and it was number one in England. It was the number one first after Bohemian Rhapsody.
I mean, just for me personally, it takes me back to the love affair going wildly wrong. So it's incredibly painful to hear it every time. And that line, keep coming up with love, but it's so slashed and torn. I always think of you, James, with that line. It just feels like... I'm not professing love for you. I love you, of course, but not that way.
Slash and tear it.
It's just that idea of just love, just not working, and what does it mean to you?
I just love. I don't know what any of those songs mean. I need a really simple lyric. So to me, it's all about the sound and the emotion, and it's just the building, and it's artistry and things. But I just want to say that why Bowie never performed it while he was alive. The first time he did perform it live, he does perform it, was at the Queen tribute in the early '90s after Freddie's death with Annie Lennox. So Google that.
Oh my God.
Google that.
James, let's move on to number 9.
Number 9.
I want you. I sent this to all of you, and I know that none of you watched.
I did my homework. I listened to it.
You? Okay.
And you said to listen all the way to the end. Yeah. I got to the end. I'm like, what? WTF? Why did you make me listen to the end? What? I did what you told me to do.
Okay, I sent to Tom, especially because I know Tom didn't listen to it, but I sent you a link so that we're going to listen to it right now. We're going to listen to parts of it right now. Okay, starting from the beginning right now. Number 9, James St. James. We're talking about Under Pressure again. This is, I think, with the movie coming out, there's going to be a lot of cover songs. A lot of people are going to be covering Queen songs. Last week we talked about Panic at the Disco doing Bohemian Rhapsody. This week, Shawn Mendes and Teddy Geiger have come out with a version of Under Pressure. And Shawn Mendes, of course, is the hottest pop star of the 21st century. There's no doubt about it. And Teddy Geiger is a trans singer who had a hit in her previous life, and now she's a frequent collaborator with Shawn Mendes, and you sort of hope that they're kind of dating. You want them to date. There's here the two of them right there.
Okay.
So let me see.
Well, our assignment was to listen to this, right?
Right.
And
so,
I did the homework assignment.
Okay. Now here's the thing, because the song is, as we know, is it's iconic. It builds and it builds and it builds, and it's very powerful and everything. And Teddy and Shawn have chosen to do sort of a gooey acoustic version, which is an odd choice for the song.
Isn't that kind of what Shawn does, though?
It's all
Shawn
Mendes.
It's sort of that's his style.
Okay, we aren't coming for Shawn here.
No, I'm saying it with love. I love it.
We're just endorsing you.
Right. Okay. So it's but anyway,
urging you to get to the point.
Oh, for crying out!
On this show, when do we get to the point?
So we get 25 minutes there, and I have to be done in 3 minutes. What is that? I refuse to be put into this box again every week. You tell me to get to the point after I've said 3 words. I get 1 sentence out, and Fent is like, "I'm over it. I'm over it. We're done. I'm out."
No, bonus time, extra for you. I promise.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to talk.
Mommy, Daddy, stop crying.
Slow now.
Yes.
Anyway,
I did the homework too.
Okay, so it's an acoustic version, which is an odd choice, like I say, because it takes away some of the some of the urgency of the message, right? It's sort of like it's sort of a happy song, and this isn't a happy song. It's very different than Queen and David Bowie, obviously, but it's
beautiful.
Yeah, it is sort of nice, and it sort of is lulling you into sort of
almost
this
calypso-like.
Yeah, but then Shawn is not afraid to really push the pedal to the metal at the end. Still nothing. Nothing.
Oh, no, you look at me and you think nothing. I'm
you
tingling
were-
all over. Every follicle on my body
But you
is
were crossing your
bristling.
eyes and sighing as if you're...
Fenton
I
is
was
British.
having-
She's almost incapable of expressing emotion.
I was having
You
a
know that,
moment of-
James.
Were you?
It's so moving. The song is so moving. And, in a way, it's like Bohemian Rhapsody, but less showy. And not just this version. I think the original version, too. It is incredible. It is so heartbreaking.
Yes.
Don't you think?
I don't think you're going to allow anybody to do any versions other than Queen because you are such a purist.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a purist, but I do think there is something about there was a unique magic about that Bowie-Freddie Mercury collaboration. It's just one of those once-in-a-lifetime things.
I
that
guarantee,
you
though,
can't
that
explain.
if you have a millennial today and you listen to them both, have them both songs, they're going to see something magical in this, and they aren't going to get the Queen and David Bowie
And
version.
You've got no argument with me. I think it's beautiful and wonderful.
And great music lives on and can be translated generation to generation.
Right.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Number 8.
Number 8.
Seven Seas of Rhye. Number 8, 7. Get it? 8, 7.
Okay.
The thing for me about Queen is I wouldn't necessarily define myself as a huge Queen fan, but their singles have always had these huge sort of been at these emotional intersections of my life, or that something about them just plucks at my heartstrings.
This is a particular song that I'm not that familiar with.
I know, right?
I had never heard it until today.
Seven Seas of Rhye, it's great. It began as a guitar riff. It's very kind of fast-paced. It's almost like speed metal or something. But when it came out in 1974, a very long time ago, I was in boarding school, and this was the end of glam. You had Mud and Alvin Stardust and Slade and Gary Glitter and Suzi Quatro and Sweet and the Bay City Rollers. But glam then was like teeny bopper stuff. It was all sort of feathers and silliness.
T-Rex.
Yes, but Queen, it was sex. There was something so sexual about Seven Seas of Rhye. I never saw Freddie Mercury. I didn't know what he looked like. And my God, but the first time I saw him, we didn't have MTV. We had Top of the Pops once a week. And this was the first time they were on Top of the Pops. But I didn't see him on Top of the Pops. And I tell you, I must have seen him a few years later. I was shocked.
And how
I tell you.
attractive or unattractive?
No,
or
not really,
sexual
just sort
or
of very
gay?
Very Trey gay. But this was the Seven Seas of Rhye. You can hear the gayness in the sound. It's a gay sounding thing.
See,
and
now,
I mean, it just spoke to me. And I'm this sort of adolescent on a couple of adolescents in some sort of living basically a sort of Dickensian nightmare. And you hear this song on the radio, and it was just, what the fuck is going on? And this was also at a time in Britain. Sprayed the microphone with spittle, I'm so excited, where you had the 3-day week, you had the recession, you had an oil crisis, you had an IRA bombing literally every month.
Right.
So it was a sort of dark time, and this Seven Seas of Rhye was just, it's a hard thing to talk about, but I urge anybody just to go listen to it, because for me it's just spine tingling and bone chilling and thrilling and weird and wonderful, and every time I listen to it, I'm just transported back, memory pain.
Which is interesting because I think Tom, will agree with me that it never invaded America. It was not something that was played on the radio in America at all. In fact, I don't think anything until Bohemian Rhapsody hit.
That's when
wasn't their first big hit Killer Queen?
What's that? Or is that the next
Killer
one?
Queen. There's so many things we got to talk about as we count down the top 10 things that made us go, wow.
Queen Bohemian Rhapsody edition.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question then, before we take a quick break. What were Queen called before they were Queen?
I don't know. I just read that this afternoon.
Okay, you're listening to Wow Report on Radio Andy, SiriusXM.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back. You're listening to Wow Report on Radio Andy. We're doing a special Queen edition of the Wow Report. 3 queens talking about Queen.
Yes.
Tom, Fenton, James, and Blake.
Yes.
All queens, if I may be so bold. Sorry to out you, Blake.
No, the movie Bohemian Rhapsody is in theaters today.
And
perfect.
So
That's why we're
being so queen.
That's why we're queening out. I'll just give you a little quote from Freddie Mercury.
Okay.
It's very regal, obviously, and it sounds splendid. It's a strong name, very universal and immediate. It had a lot of visual potential and was open to all sorts of interpretations. I was certainly aware of the gay connotations, but that was just one facet of it. So he thought of the name of Queen, Freddie Mercury did,
Right.
and he also designed the lovely sort of royal insignia crest.
Amazing.
Crest, yes. But what were they called before they were Queen?
I know this. The Fabulous Pop-Tarts.
Oh, thank you. I love you. And you are wrong.
Do you know? You
I
said you read it
don't.
earlier?
I read it, then it completely went on right.
The Potters did once write a song with the same name. The name of the band was Smile.
Oh.
And here's a little ooga booga fact. They had to change their name when one of their members left to join a band called Humpy Bong.
Ha!
Here's the 70s.
Those were the days, my
right?
friend.
Humpy Bong.
And just so you know, the Fabulous Pop-Tarts, Google it, watch it on YouTube, is Fenton and Randy's.
I want to get
band.
into Humpy Bong.
Well, someday, if you're lucky.
So they had to become Queen, and Freddie Mercury joined. Yeah. I guess the guy who joined Humpy Bong made a bit of a mistake. Right. Okay, let's carry on with the countdown. Tom, number 7.
Number 7.
I want to talk and rhapsodize about the song in the video Bohemian Rhapsody, because I do feel like that is, I don't know the exact order of hits, but that's when they hit the market. Now, the song is so, there's nothing like it, really. There's this sort of a cappella piano intro. It goes into the pleading ballad about Mama, I just killed a man. It's a story song. I love story songs, especially when people die in them. The guitar solo and then in that operatic thing, all in like 5 minutes. And then it goes into the rock thing and then the outro. I remember seeing because I saw it's the first song I first heard while seeing. You know what I mean? It was like, because there was that video that Bruce Gowers, who's gone on to be a multiple Emmy winning, he did all the early music videos, and now he does the Emmys and the MTV Awards. He's worked with everybody for all that time. He, with a budget of $3,500, shot from 7:30 p.m. until 10:30 p.m.
That's right, because they still made it to the pub for last call.
Yes. And their album cover, I think it was Queen 2, and the album cover was them in a triangle, and they wanted to have the video match it, and they were sort of lit from below, inspired from a famous Marlene Dietrich photo. You've seen those kind of photos of Marlene Dietrich. And so it was just so cheap. You know, there's moments where their faces kind of go off into like, he goes, that's just because a camera was shooting a monitor and it picked up on that. It was no post thing. And there was another thing where they, there's a prism, you know, that they have like all the different, like there's 8 of them. He goes, that wasn't a post effect. That was a lens on a camera that picked up 8 images of them. God. And it took them 3 hours, $3,500. It is an iconic. It stands to this day. Obviously, Wayne's World picked up on it in '92.
And made it a hit all over again.
Yeah,
Right?
it was my favorite song when it came out in '90. I didn't even know it was an old song. It was one of those where your mom's singing it, and you're like,
yes.
Mom, how do you know this song?
Well, because also the thing is, you know, the law of pop music is you've got a verse, you've got a chorus, you repeat ad infinitum, maybe you have a middle 8 or break or something like that. This seems to never come back. It just goes on and on. Yes.
And it was a single. You know, at that time 3 minutes was sort of the cutoff for singles.
Absolutely.
There's a moment in the film where the manager says,
yeah, played by Mike Myers. It's really good.
and he says that no one on earth is ever going to listen to 6 minutes of a music
He says
song.
the single is my best friend. And they're like, no, the first single is Bohemian Rhapsody.
Making me feel so. And I remember seeing it. My personal memories. I remember seeing it with my mom and my sister on television.
You know, it's funny because I think it was on HBO is where we used to see videos for we didn't have anything else, and they would between movies they would play music.
They
videos.
were promotional reels back then, just you know, occasionally, and it would be on the top of the pops and things. And just my mom, who listened to our music and was open minded to it, but just loved this. And it was a freaky song. It was Mama, I just killed a man, got a gun. It was really radical, but just totally absorbed and appreciated by my mother as like a piece of art.
James, what do you think?
About Bohemian Rhapsody?
Hated it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was something. I was still very young when it came out, and so it was one of those.
Too young.
Yeah,
I was in my mid
I was
30s.
pre-verbal, I believe. So,
But I remembered vividly.
According to his biographer, it was his coming out song. And Sir Tim Rice, who's written many a lyric to Frank Lloyd Webber musicals, said, not Frank Lloyd, Andrew Lloyd Webber, said that it was the straight person, he's destroyed the man he was trying to be, and now he's trying to live with the new Freddie. And I see a little silhouette of a man, that's him, still being haunted by what he's done and what he is. So that's Sir Tim Rice endorsing the idea that Bohemian Rhapsody is Freddie Mercury's coming out song. Okay, moving on. James, number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6, 1984's "I Want to Break Free" from the album The Works. I don't know if you remember at this time. This was right when the new wave had sort of turned into techno, and there was a lot of synthesizer music. And Queen had decided that they were going to have a synthesizer album, and it was they were going because until then they just did natural harmonies and natural instruments and everything like that.
So for this album, it was the Works.
Yeah, and The Works, and people were very scandalized by it, and it was a big step they were taking, and it was like people weren't sure whether they were going to survive the synthesizer era.
Because people used to object to synthesizers back in the day. It was considered inauthentic,
and it was also sort of considered a sellout by them to have to do this. But the video is it was one of those. It was banned in America. I don't know if you remember this.
Really?
Yeah, it's the first half is Freddie Mercury and the band, and they're in drag, and it's riff on Coronation Street. I don't know if the opening of Coronation Street, which is a British soap opera, and Freddie Mercury is flouncing around in a leather miniskirt and a wig, and he's got the mustache still, and he's sort of really camping it up and vamping it up. Roger is in rollers. He's like an old woman, and the other one is like dressed like Britney Spears, schoolgirl. I don't know. I think Britney was maybe watching the video as a child and got the idea.
It's sort of suburban housewife drag, frumpy drag.
And like I said, it was a huge hit in England and in the UK, and in South America, where it was considered a fight against oppression, was they sort of took it as a sort of a song for the times. In America, it only reached 45 on the Billboard charts, and it was banned on MTV because of the drag,
the cross-dressing.
And I remember at the time it was I hadn't come out yet, and watching it gave me all sorts of feelings. Seeing that these people in drag, and I had to. All my friends were like fucking faggots and like that, and they were very in Middle America. It was considered. I mean, it was.
But wasn't there that rap video where Milton Berle's in drag or something? They were okay with that.
Well, that's because it was Rat. I mean, it's different. The Queen was always a gay band.
This is one of my favorite Queen songs. I love mostly because of the video too.
Again, it's got that sort of melancholy to it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the second half of the video, the Royal Ballet is doing a thing, and Freddie Mercury famously shaved off his mustache and was doing Nijinsky in The Faun, and so that's what that was. I hope that Rami Malek does it in the movie. Does he?
There's a scene where they're filming this video, and it actually plays a little part in the movie. This song.
Okay.
It's a little tease that maybe somebody behind the cameras has seen the movie. Give us the scoop.
Anyway, so it's one of those movies. I mean, it's one of those videos that just gives me all sorts of feels because it takes me right back to my high school years.
Were you verbal in high school?
Oh yeah.
Just checking. Were you oral in high school?
Oh, good Lord. Stop.
What did I say?
You can watch the video for I Want to Break Free on the Wow Report at worldofwonder.net/radio. Andy, so, okay, we got to talk about this song. Number 5.
Number 5.
Radio Gaga.
All we hear is Radio Gaga. Radio Gaga.
From the same album.
Yeah, actually, this was Radio Gaga was the first hit, and I Want to Break Free was the second hit.
Oh, fantastic!
From the Works,
and even again in America, still sort of resisting. It wasn't even a top 10 single in America. It is a fantastic song, and I was talking earlier about the sort of emotional resonance of their songs. Again, I think it's got that trademark melancholy, but it's moving, and it conjures up this time because this was 1984, and of course everyone had Orwell's book on their mind. a song that always comes into my mind with this one is always Annie Lennox, "Sex Crime," the Eurythmics. You know, this sort of retro futuristic thing that was on people's minds as you know in '84, and it's also got they use Metropolis in the video, which was sort of just being rediscovered then as a movie. It also, of course, evokes to me "Video Killed the Radio Star."
Right.
It's, you know, we watch the shows, we watch the stars on videos for hours and hours. We hardly need to use our ears. How music changes through the years. And
Do you think though that they were resistant to going synthesizer, and that they're a little angry that they had to do this? Is that what they get from that?
No, I don't think so. For a second, I just think there was this seismic shift from music to video.
In 1984, it was like 3 years old.
But
It was
they
just
going
exploding.
from silent movies to sound,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were resentful. I don't think they had any reason to be resentful. Freddie Mercury and Queen was such a visual extravaganza.
Yes.
I think they were born for
They made one of
video.
the
But
first
they
videos.
are essentially, you know, about the music, and I don't.
They played with visuals too.
I
I would
think
say.
they were seminal in music videos, and it's just a little. I mean, really, this is really just about trivia, but you know, they reference you gave them all those old-time stars through wars of worlds invaded by Mars. Here, of course, he's referencing in the lyrics the H.G. Wells War of the Worlds broadcast on radio that sent everybody into a panic.
Right, to the streets.
Yes. And then, of course, the other overriding piece of trivia about this song is a certain someone got her name from this record.
I was going to
Madonna.
ask. Madonna. Was it
Lady
Katy-
Gaga.
Oh, I thought it was Katy Perry.
Lady Gaga. And of course, there's conflicting stories about this. According to Rob Fusari, who was her boyfriend then,
Yes.
and producer, and claimed to be the man who discovered her, he turned to her in the studio and said, "Oh, you know, you're so Radio Gaga." And she loved that. And she apparently, her contribution was to add Lady.
Well, that was a
Lady
good contribution.
Gaga. But then Lady Gaga herself claimed all the credit for coming up with the name, and Rob Fusari launched a $30 million lawsuit. And part of the court papers was that he said he had texted her something about Radio Gaga, and the autocorrect changed it to Lady Gaga. So her name, according to him, was created by autotext.
Wait,
autocorrection.
people were texting in 2006, was it?
Yeah.
I guess, like the young
You
kids.
still had to do, like, for A, you had to do.
Can I just
Yeah.
say, when you're sued for $30 million, you know you've made it. That's incredible. Do you know how that suit turned out by any chance?
He dropped it.
Oh,
No.
so
Yeah,
I think she
apparently.
probably
I think so too.
paid him off.
Okay. Okay. So we've got to take a quick break. Hey, by the way, starring Trixie Mattel and Catch is back on What Represents Plus.
It's so fun to hear that said. Okay.
I like saying it. It's like, you know,
Feels
maybe
good.
there's a pop star out there who will suddenly say, "My name is
Lady.
or Lord." Anywho, What Represents Plus, uncensored. You get it a week early. Only $3.99 a month.
It's really a membership program.
It kind of is. You know, it's less than a latte, but so much more.
Who drinks one latte a month? Not me. Several many.
Anywho, okay, so here's my question. Lady Gaga got her name from Radio Gaga. Here's the thing. Radio Gaga, the track, wasn't always called that. What was the original title? Hey, you're listening to our report on Radio Andy, SiriusXM. It's an all-special Queen edition, and we'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report, our countdown of the top 10 Queen things that make us go,
Wow.
I'm Fenton. I'm here with Tom and James and Blake. And before the break, we were just talking about Radio Gaga, one of my favorite Queen tracks. Of course, where Lady Gaga got her name from.
Right.
But here's the thing. Lady Gaga could have been called something else because the song was not always called Radio Gaga. Anyone know what it was originally called?
I don't know if I know this or if I'm just being divinely inspired, but I think the answer is it was originally called Radio Blah Blah.
Good guess.
So she could have been Lady Blah Blah, which, by the way, is a name for a cat that I'm about to have, I think. I think there's a cat with that name on it in my future. Okay.
It is Radio something something, and I'm not sure what the other one is. What is it?
Caw, caw.
Well, here's the thing.
Sana song.
Roger
Caca.
Taylor, who wrote the song,
Radio
and who
Caca.
didn't-
It is Radio Caca.
and who didn't write a lot of
Yes.
Queen songs, was in LA with his son in the car,
And he thought
listening
Los Angeles was
to
Caca.
a crappy song on the radio, and his son said,
Said
"Radio Caca."
Yes, I do.
So-
I read that.
Lady Gaga could have been Lady Caca.
Caca. And that's what some people still refer to it.
Oh, see.
Oh, no. Cut that.
Why?
I don't know what
You
I
went for quick. You were just.
I
you were
know,
just
I'm
riffing.
sorry.
Yeah,
I was
it was
you were
really
riffing.
just
You were
witty,
scatting.
sweetie. So it's an
Lady
all-
Scat Scat.
It's 3 queens on Queen. We're counting down. We've reached number 4. Tom.
Number 4.
You know, and the reason for this occasion is that Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, is out today. I'm giving a bit of a spoiler, but someone here, Blake, maybe has seen the movie. We'll hear about it later. But in leading up to it, I have not seen it yet. One of the big criticisms after the trailer was dropped is that it seemed to skip the part that Freddie Mercury was gay, which we'll find out later.
Oh, okay.
Or you can tell us now. And it does sort of blots out that he died of AIDS in 1991. And so I was kind of curious because, you know, at that time, people, you know, George Michael's Sexuality, everybody's sexuality was rumored, but you know, Whitney Houston, you wanted to believe it or not believe it, and it always they made efforts to blur the story, right? And just doing a little bit of research, and again, it's all hearsay. It's like he
Did have was he married? Didn't he? Was he married early on?
He may have been bisexual. He may have been gay, but he kept it a mystery kind of purposely. And some of his bandmates have been quoted as saying, you know, in the 70s, you know, we haven't said this, but he was not attractive. Freddie Mercury, when I first saw him, I was kind of shocked by he had these protruding teeth, and he had that long, crazy hair, and I'm like a little preppy boy from New Hampshire.
He was, I mean, it sounds disrespectful. He was a little horse-facey.
Yeah.
But my sister finds him irresistibly sexy.
I love your
and
sister.
a lot of people do find, me, not so much, but James, how sexy did you find him?
It was confusing because there was a big lump in his pants and he shook his ass and he was shirtless. But by the same token, and the mustache was a little weird for me.
Well,
but the teeth were sort of a
I
deal
wanna take it
breaker.
through.
But I was confused. I was turned on. I was not turned on.
They said that he named the band Queen, knowing that it would sort of provoke it. Is he or isn't he? That was in the early 70s.
Right.
In the 70s, he was kind of long-haired
Yeah.
and kind of ambiguous.
Always in onesies with, as James says, the prominent bulge.
And when I think
No tucking,
a
right?
reporter in 74 asked him about being bent. Was that an
Yeah.
expression in
Yeah,
London?
yeah, yeah.
He sort of deflected and said, "Oh, sure, I fooled around as a schoolboy, but nothing more than that." He was in love, and the love of his life was Mary Austin.
Mary Austin, yes.
Was the love of his life. They were engaged to be married. He came out to her, again, according to things I've read, and said he was bisexual. She said, "I think you're homosexual." And they didn't get married, but she remained very close to him. Right. When he eventually did die, he had found love and was sort of, but she inherited his entire estate. So it's just, he reminds me of a lot of men at that time who were chose to be ambiguous in the 70s because it just served them better, because it was still prejudice and people would still might not buy your records. His band members, they said they didn't even talk to him about it.
No, pop, especially pop at the time, was a sort of closet situation,
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, Bowie was toying with the bisexuality. It wasn't an open.
Elton John first came out as
thing.
bisexual before he sort of identified as gay in the
Yes.
late 80s, because it was just safer. And people are bi, and you want to speak.
Speak.
Oh no, I just I don't think that we can erase bisexuality in rock music. I think that it's a very much a thing, and I think that a lot of people, I think in the movie they talk about his bisexuality, and I think that
They do.
Yes, and I think that's where they land on, and the fact that he
good.
was bisexual is
I
being
think-
Like a lot of
And
men
they don't-
of his age, he in the 80s he started having the clone look, right, with the mustache and the leather pants and the buff bod, and he was sort of coming into his own. But he, you know, starting in the late 80s, started having, you know, HIV related problems, and then he became gaunt, but he denied that he had AIDS, again, very much about that time, until something like on November 23rd, 1991, he came out with a statement, and the next day he passed away.
Yeah.
So it just reminded me of myself and so many men I knew of that time who were blurring the line because they could, you know, publicly, who then were hiding their homosexuality because it was associated with AIDS, and they were just trying to live their lives and make their art and be accepted accepted in a world that was scared to death. And I'm glad that the movie deals with a lot of it.
Yeah, it
and,
doesn't
and,
gloss it over.
And in my speaking of this, I hope I don't offend anyone, but I think he was bisexual. But I think it's important to have the conversation, that it's not swept under the carpet. So there.
Yes. Can I just add? That was great. Can I just add? He was born in 1946, which is this date that keeps on popping up for me. Mapplethorpe, born in 1946. Trump, George Bush, Bill Clinton, born in 1946. Liza Minnelli, Dolly Parton, Cher, Versace, DVF, Dion von Furstenberg, Spielberg, Linda Ronstadt, Patti Smith, Robert Mapplethorpe. What happened?
It's super baby boomer. The war ended in 45.
Yeah. I mean, what an amazing...
So everyone's coming home from the war, and they're all fucking like bunny rabbits. So 9 months later,
and the war is
born.
over. Yeah.
You know what? An amazing generation of creativity, I think. James, what's your number 3 ultimate Queen moment that made you go...
Number 3.
Bicycle Race from
Strange Song,
1978, from the album Jazz. It came out as a double single with Fat Bottom Girls, and it was both of them on the same side of the thing. And both of the songs they start off, and it's a very simple child song. I want to ride my bicycle.
I want to ride my bike.
It reminds me a little bit of I got a pair of brand new roller skates.
You got a brand new key.
Like those sort of sing-song, childy 60s, 70s sort of kitschy songs. But then it builds and it builds, and it sort of at one point it feels very Bohemian Rhapsody. It gets more and more.
It's not rock. It's baroque.
Okay.
If a laugh could paint a picture,
Laughs could kill.
Once again, there was a video for it that we saw only on HBO, but it too was banned in America.
What did they do this time?
It was 65 naked girls on bicycles at the Wimbledon Stadium, Wimbledon Arena, and they were having a bicycle race. And it was very naughty at the time, and boys were masturbating furiously to the video, and it seemed very. I think they were trying to be hetero a little bit in this moment. I don't know, appeal to a hetero audience. Fat Bottom Girls also had a sort of a steamy video with naked fat bottom girls riding bicycles.
All sounds good to me.
This song is they reference the Vietnam War, Watergate, drugs, Jaws, Star Wars. They talk about Peter Pan and Superman.
What in
the song Bicycle Race?
Really?
It's very it's a lot about current events, and it's another bleak song, even though it's the
just
music,
sounds like a kid wanting to go out and ride his bicycle.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, what's behind
is riding a bicycle really code for sex?
Is it?
I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
Do you ever ride a bicycle, James?
Have I ever ridden a bicycle?
What did you as a kid ride a bicycle?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In your verbal times?
Did you ride a bicycle?
I did ride a bike, but actually, like Nolan and Elliot, Elliot's too young, but they don't ride bikes. I mean,
because you live in L.A., it's a busy street. They should get bikes.
Okay.
Rent bikes and go to the beach on the weekend and rent a bike for them.
Okay. Bicycle race. Bicycle release. Bicycle race released in 1978. That is extraordinary. And the cover of that record is weird. You look at it too; it's just those concentric circles going out and out and out and out and out. Okay, number 2.
Number 2.
Queen they came out in the 70s, right? They were a sort of, they weren't pomp rock, but they epitomized what punk was trying to kill off. Which was seen as sort of overblown, over-excessive, over-indulgent, over-musical, over-produced, layers of vocal, 48
Alan Parsons
tracks.
project.
Yes, concept.
Yeah,
Punk was trying to kill all that off. And,
Pink Floyd.
And the Sex Pistols seized on Queen. I think they defaced Queen T-shirts and wore them on TV.
I did not know that.
And specifically, funnily enough, they got a huge break when Queen was supposed to go on ITV on some chat show. I forget the name of the chat show, damn it. But the Sex Pistols filled in, And that's when they swore on television, and the presenter was goading them on, saying, swear, swear. And it caused a huge national scandal that, of course, made the Sex Pistols huge stars because it was all, the whole thing was a big con. So Queen was sort of, it's taking a long time to get to the point, but Queen was sort of kind of back, what's the word? Back, put on the wrong foot. What is the word?
They just
When you say like someone's like, their pitch was queered. Okay. By punk. They were just seen as old-fashioned and obsolete.
yes, which could happen in
However,
music very quickly.
In 1985, they performed at Live Aid. They weren't on the Do They Know It's Christmas record.
No.
Apparently, Freddie was in Africa and wasn't asked or wasn't available and wished he had been. But they were asked to perform at Wembley Stadium in Live Aid. They stole the show. Completely stole the show. They performed in front of 72,000 people. The first song they did, of course, well, actually, they were very smart. Unlike a lot of the other acts, they decided to do a medley of all their hits. And boy, did they have a lot of hits. First one they began with was Bohemian Rhapsody, and then Radio Gaga. And the entire audience, 72,000 people, were clapping and chanting along. And Queen themselves were stunned. They were like, how the fuck did everyone know this? They had no idea that they had such kinship with this audience, and so it was just a great memorable moment. And after that point, Queen were back. They were like, they were back from exile. They were
But
back
what
on the
hits
throne.
did they have in the late 80s?
When was Radio Gaga again? Oh, well, it was already out.
84?
Well, maybe they didn't need hits. They just went on tour. They just did victory laps.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then
they were.
we've skipped over the "We Are the Champions," "We Will Rock You," which was everywhere,
These huge anthems.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I think.
And the irony of ironies that, "We Will Rock You" by the queeniest band of all has become this staple of straight anthem.
Stadium football.
Stadium.
And there's
But that was one of the first songs that I remember that was on the radio for literally 2 years. It just did not go away. It was, now we have a lot of those songs that just never go. But I remember that was one of the first ones that just stuck around longer than any other song ever.
Yeah, and still with us.
Yeah. Okay, we've got to take a quick break. Check out our series Cool Moms, starring RuPaul's Drag Race Season 5 winner Jinx Monsoon.
It's funny. It's
Wow
funny.
Presents Plus, it is, right? Sign up at wow-presents.com. When we come back, we'll reveal the #1 Queen thing that made us go, wow.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay,
Come back.
yes,
We got to
yes.
talk about it. Blake's seen it.
Of course, that's a perfect segue. Thank you. You're listening to Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I am so excited to welcome Blake on camera
Hi.
to reveal the hidden secrets of Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, which opens today. And the reason for that is we've been counting down the top 10 things that make us go,
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a special Queen edition.
#1.
I loved the movie. You guys have got to see it. It bookends with the Live Aid performance. Like, it shows him getting ready to go to Live Aid, and then it flashes back. But it doesn't dwell too long on one period of. It's pretty quick moving,
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically about he was in love with this girl, Mary.
Yep.
And they were really close and almost got married. In fact, he wrote that song. What's the slow song? That's one of their first. I love you. It's one of their first big songs, but it's slow and
Gosh. Okay, well, we'll
Keep
think
going.
of
I'm
it.
looking.
We'll
While you
think of
keep
it.
talking, I'm going to look for it.
Yeah. It was written about her, and he found out after he was in the band for a while. First, second album, he kind of fell in love with this A&R man, and in the movie, the A&R man. Well, you just have to see it, but
Was it Somebody to Love?
no, it wasn't somebody. It was one I'd never heard of. It was probably bigger in the UK because it was early in their career.
Okay.
Like I think Killer Queen was their first.
Hit in America.
I wish we'd talked about Killer Queen because it's such a fabulous song and it's so outrageous.
And it
Killer
does.
Queen.
It really
the
is.
way it
That's-
scoops.
Dynamite with a laser beam.
That's another one of my favorite Queen songs. But it also it It doesn't gloss over the HIV and the sickness. It doesn't gloss over the gayness. There's even a part where he goes to like a leather club, and there's parts where gets the call that he's got HIV, and it shows when he tells the band and all that.
Now, because I know I've been saying that Bradley Cooper is a shoo-in to win the Oscar. Is it going to be Bradley versus Rami?
It may be. The only thing is the prosthetics that he used for his teeth kind of threw me off in the beginning when he doesn't have the mustache.
But Rami sort of has a bit of a teeth issue.
But he has like a big grill-like thing, that has Freddie. That's like Freddie's teeth.
But so did Freddie. They were scary teeth to look at.
Well, he looks a little weirder in the early part of the film. I guess like the mustache like covers it up, but I thought and by the end of it, you think that's Freddie Mercury. In fact, at the very end, they show like a little montage of the band playing, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what Freddie Mercury actually looks like. But yeah,
and Rami performs all the vocals.
Yes. Did he?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did he sing live like Gaga?
Yes.
Have you seen the movie?
No.
Well, you have to go out and see it. It's out today.
Is
Go
there
see
a
the
scene?
movie.
Is there a moment that sticks with you? I'm all about the feels. Is there what moment made you really
Did you cry?
feel?
I did kind of cry.
Yeah?
Yeah, at the very end when he goes back to Live Aid, and it just shows like how huge they were, like people all over around in pubs, singing.
What was so lovely about that moment in real life was that they just didn't expect it,
Right.
and it was, for some reason, they were the perfect band to hear at that time. I mean, Bowie was great, and I think Bowie and Mick Jagger did Dancing in the Streets, but somehow
It's
it
Queen.
belonged
Phil
to
Collins
Queen.
go? Didn't he went
got
from
on the Concorde
Philadelphia
and went to Philadelphia. Yeah.
I mean, the stadium must have been unreal to be there, but I watched it live. I felt like the entire world was watching.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Watched and
Oh,
cried.
My knees, my back. I had to stand.
Oh,
All right, so
well, thank
Blake
you.
has seen. He's giving us 4 thumbs up.
Yes.
We all have to go tonight
Yep.
to see Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, thank you for joining us. This has been a very special edition of the Wow Report. All Queens, all the time. Thank you, Tom.
As
Thank
it should
you.
be.
Always, right? Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake. And you can listen to it, the radio show, on Sirius Radio and SiriusXM. Listen anytime on the Sirius Radio app, or you can watch us on the Wow Report. So,
Which is on YouTube.
YouTube.
Or go to worldofwonder.net/Radio Andy.
Oh, thank you.
I cut right to YouTube and put in Wow Report.
Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow. Bye.